what Mike did in having Connaughton and Grayson Allen set screens for Giannis has really opened him up. I mean, the Celtics have made a living off being a switch everything type of team.
Yeah.
They can't do that against Milwaukee, because every time Giannis sees Jaylen Brown, he's going straight to the rim. That was a great adjustment by Budenholzer the last couple of games, and the Celtics haven't really matched that. But like, they don't have the horses. Like, they don't have the guys offensively to take the pressure off Giannis like you need to be, and he's going to get tired late in these games.
Well, they still have the best player in this series, which is why I'm not passing out the cigars yet. And he's, in person, has just hit this level that's pretty rare. You're talking 12, 13 guys in the history of the league that can just casually put up a 35, 18, and 7, against a team that's as good as the Celtics. The Celtics have the better balance. The biggest kind of sneaky subplot of those last two games, that was Derek White, who I thought was unplayable in those first two games offensively. Defensively, he's always going to be, at least somewhat valuable depending on where his confidence is. But offensively, unplayable. And he came out game 3 and you can see it immediately. He was way more physical. He was carrying himself differently. What do we think Ime's speech was between game 2 and game 3? Do we have any idea?
No, I was talking to somebody about that within the team, and one thing this person said was like, we weren't unhappy with kind of his shot selection the first couple of games, or necessarily the way he was playing. He just wasn't playing as physical as everybody else. This is the most physical series of the postseason. A country mile. Like, there are bodies out there landing every single possession. It's like Greco-Roman wrestling out there in this series. And Derek White wasn't doing it. Like, he wasn't playing to the level of physicality that Milwaukee and his teammates were playing to. The last couple of games, internally they believed he was. Like, that's the big difference.
I believe he was.
He just ratcheted up a notch. Now,
he was bouncing off dudes. There was one time when somebody was on him and he threw his elbow out at the guy. It was stuff that he was not doing in the Brooklyn series.
No, and he's a legit 6'3". Like, he's a big guy. He should be able to do a lot of the same things with Marcus Smart that you do with Marcus Smart with Derek White. He just wasn't there the first couple of games. And look, the Nets series wasn't that physical from Brooklyn, so maybe that took a bit to adjust to. But after those first couple of games,
he's also never been in a series like this. When was he doing this with San Antonio? That three-guard lineup the Celtics had. Pritchard stayed in. He overstayed his welcome by about a minute, but that was an interesting wrinkle. And then they settled on Smart, White, Jalen Tatum, and Horford, which is...
What did Pritchard finish, by the way? Like, I looked at my stat sheet in Milwaukee, and he's like plus 19 on points.
Yeah, this is like plus minus.
Yeah,
is stupid.
Monster plus minus 19.
He missed that 3 in the corner, and then Connaughton immediately answered with a 3, and it was a 6-point swing, and it was like, oh my God, please don't let that be a moment. The Celtics, though, if White's going to be who he was the last 2 games, they become really hard to beat, even however much they get out of Williams, just because now they can go big and small depending on the matchup. And if they want to play lineups off the court, they have the ability, where the Bucks are basically stuck with 2 different versions of 6 guys, right? 5 of these 6 guys, we can go a little bigger or we can go smaller, but that's it. We don't really have enough. Now, the Celtics are favored by, I think, almost 6, game 5.
Well, that's a lot.
It's a lot. And I think Giannis would be as incredible. There's some Horford stuff last night that made me a little nervous, when everybody talking about don't stare at Al Horford like that. But I do feel like Giannis probably hears some of that stuff. He's like, really? Like, you realize that I'm like a generational physical specimen, right? You're gonna be bragging about it. So I don't know. I'm interested to see how that plays out. But the crowd's gonna be amazing. I was there for the 81 Celtics-Sixers series. I went to all those home games. That's the legendary Celtics series from a physicality standpoint. Game 5, Game 6, Game 7, just bodies everywhere, every play. The last 5 minutes of Game 7, if you watch on YouTube, there's 4 guys on the floor. Last night was reminding me of that a little bit. Where there was just sequences, it was like rollerball. There was just guys strewn on the floor sideways, guys lying on each other. And I think this Game 5 will be even more physical.
Yeah, and maybe I'm in the minority, but I had no problem with the way the referees officiate the game. The Celtics fans and the Celtics themselves get way too wrapped up with referees to their detriment. Like Tatum complains a lot. Grant Williams was whining the entire game, and that took him out of it. And look, he had a couple of ticky-tack
He was
calls.
bad. Yeah.
In the third quarter, he probably could have won a of those calls probably could have gone his way. But look, the referees, unless you are clobbering somebody, they're letting stuff go in this series. I love that. Like, I love that.
Yeah.
Both these teams have big physical players, and they're being allowed to play big and physical. So, yeah, I mean, whoever's able to win the physicality battle is probably going to win. Like, I was on, this is why you don't watch games while on Twitter. Like, Celtic fans are complaining about, the referees in the third quarter when they're getting clobbered at that point, points in the paint. They're getting clobbered at the free throw line. They're just, rebounding, they were getting beat up. So, like, the Celtics in the fourth quarter, the referees didn't change. They just matched the physicality and played stronger, like more physical than Milwaukee. And that's something I think they have to, for 48 minutes, they've got to be able to beat Milwaukee in the physical way.
Well, and you knew Giannis. He's the hardest guy in the league to officiate.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very reminiscent of Shaq. It's like, what do you do? Play to play. And he's so strong. And anytime he can get any sort of contact, the other guy's going to lose. And it's just, what do you do with it? Did the Celtics win the title if they win the series?
I think they get to the finals. I don't know. Golden State, Phoenix, even Dallas, I guess, if they come out of that series. I'm less sure about that. They've had problems with Miami. And Miami plays really physical with them, too. And they haven't always responded to that. But Philly, they've kind of figured out, I think, a little bit, especially with Rob Williams, if he's healthy in that series. I would favor Boston over, considerably over Miami or Philadelphia. Not that it's easy, but I would favor them over both those teams.
I felt like the three best teams were Boston, Milwaukee, and Phoenix. Phoenix, I thought that series was done. 2-0. And then Dallas just all of a sudden it flipped it. Now we'll see. Game 5, we're taping this before we see Game 5 tonight. But that was the first time I was like, oh, that would be cool if Phoenix wasn't in the finals. That would be helpful. But I guess
you don't think they match up pretty well, I think, with Phoenix, though. I mean,
they do. I just think
like,
Phoenix, I really value what Phoenix did this season, especially the last 5 minutes of the game. Before we go, 2 things. Really weird Jeannie Buss interview about the Lakers today in the LA Times, where we found out that Magic now has input again. So does Phil Jackson. Kurt Rambis never stopped. Pelinka is safe. Clutch and LeBron apparently don't have influence. We still don't know who made the Russell Westbrook deal. Everything's fine. She's confused why she spent so much on luxury tax to not make the playoffs. And I left that piece going, wow, what the hell is going on with this team? What was your reaction after you read it?
First, it's like, great job, Bill Plaschke, for getting her to say all these things and sit down and do that. The big takeaway for me is that Jeannie Buss seems to really believe she's got the best and the brightest in that organization, which she does not. They are a marquee franchise that's being run like a Dave & Buster's. Like, they really are. It's like they have... Rob Pelinka is fine. Long-time NBA agent. He's got a lot of experience in the league. We've seen agents have success before in these positions. But to read kind of Jeannie Buss defend Kurt Rambis by describing his 40 years of experience that have led to nothing consequential, and then kind of denying that Linda Rambis is involved in basketball operations, but affirming that she is an advisor, which kind of suggests she's involved in basketball operations. And I kind of flash back to something that Rob Pelinka said at the end of the season media avail, when he's like, our basketball operations staff will dig into this with me, Kurt, and the 2 buses, like the 2 bus men in that organization. Like, you compare that, Bill, to what the Clippers have going out there and the front office structure that they've hired some of the best out there. Lawrence Frank is a lifer. Michael Winger is a future GM in this league. They've got a lot of guys in that front office that seem to know what they're doing. And you can't argue that while both teams missed the playoffs, Clippers are in far better shape over the next few years as they kind of build that thing out. So I don't know. I don't know how it's a team like that, which should have limitless resources, which should go out of its way to have the best front office in all of basketball, can be run in such a mom and pop way. Like,
yeah, but here's the thing.
I just don't get it.
You know who's happy about it? The other 29 teams.
Sure.
Because the worst case scenario for all of those teams is if Jeannie looks around one day as she's having people on the deck with all her advisors, all of whom are just either taking money from her or whatever, and she looks around and goes, maybe I should get that guy, Sam Presti from Oklahoma City, and I'll just pay him $50 million a year, and he could just run this and fix this. That would be a worst case scenario for the league. And Presti's just sitting there now as, you know, Messiah's, he's in Toronto. The Boston situation seems pretty stable at this point. Clippers are stable. Golden State's stable. If you're just talking about, like, who's the big ticket name out there that could immediately fix your franchise, I would say it's Presti. I don't know if he'd want to work for the Lakers. He grew up in Massachusetts, but it's kind of hard for me to believe she wouldn't look at this and go, our team can't find or keep talent. We've made wrong decisions pretty much all the time, except for the Anthony Davis trade, which, by the way, we gave up more assets in that trade than anyone's ever given up in an NBA trade ever. Maybe I need to bring somebody in who actually knows what they're doing.
I don't know if you'd want to work there either, but I think another opportunity, a big one, would appeal to him. A whole truckload of money, which the Lakers could offer, would appeal to him. I'm 100% sure that if Sam Presti took a job like that, he would only take it if he could pink slip everybody in the organization, and he could tell every member of the Buss family besides Jeannie that they should lose his number, and they do not have access to the front office, and their input is no longer required.
It's me, it's Jeannie, and it's our coach. That's it.
Owners always have input. Like, Jeannie Buss should have input in what goes on with that team. Every owner does, including, by the way, Clay Bennett in Oklahoma City. So that's not an issue. But like everybody else, you're gone. I'm building out my own staff. I'm doing my own thing, and I'm gonna do this my way. In which I'm not so sure that Jeannie Buss would give.
I don't think she would. I think she likes it.
Satisfied with this.
She likes it the way it was.
Bill, we are in the media. We're all idiots sometimes. We have hot takes that go nowhere. I thought Marcus Smart was going to be a shitty point guard. I was dead wrong about that. He makes me eat that every time I hear or talk to him or talk to somebody that knows it. But everybody that knew anything about basketball knew the Westbrook trade was dumb. They knew it wasn't going to work out. And yet the Lakers do it, and they act like it's okay. We'll just pivot from that. We'll figure out. The new coach coming in, we'll figure out how to make it work with Russell Westbrook. It's just, again, great interview by Bill Plaschke. I just didn't agree with anything that Jeannie Buss was saying.
Amazing stuff. I like that Magic's back too after he absolutely blowtorched them.
Phil Jackson's
went out
back.
press conference.
But forget Magic. Magic, at least, like, he's got history with Jeannie, all that stuff.
Sure.
Like, he's like, whatever. But, like, Phil Jackson, who was one of the worst GMs ever, like, brutal GM in New York, he's offering advice on how to tweak the team. Like, what are we doing? Like, how does this make any sense to be taking advice from people that do not have a track record of success at that particular job?
All right, 45 seconds to talk about vegan Canelo losing for the first time in 9 years.
Bit off more than he could chew. Bivol was not Sergey Kovalev. Sergey Kovalev was Canelo's first foray at light heavyweight 3 years ago. Kovalev was washed at that point in his career. He hasn't fought since then. Bivol is 31, prime of his career, great jab, real light heavyweight power, had been a light heavyweight his entire professional career, and I can tell you from being around him all week, was not flummoxed or flustered by the moment one bit. He had the same expression on his face.
Thanks for telling me for
Wednesday.
Gambling. Yeah, thanks for giving me the tip.
I couldn't have bet, but I wouldn't have bet against Canelo either. Like, you just can't. Until he loses, you just can't. You figure this plan A, B, C, whatever he's going to do. But Bivol came out there and from the first second dictated the pace of that fight. Canelo had no answers. What was embarrassing, frankly, was that Bivol almost got robbed. If he doesn't win that 12th round, all three judges call it 114-114, a draw, which would have been bonkers.
He lost the first 4 rounds on all 3 cards, and after round 3, I was texting with my boxing friends, being like, "Whoa, Canelo's in trouble."
Yes,
he won all the rounds apparently.
I think I was one of them. You were texting them. After that.
What's happening?
I'm calling the fight, and you're texting me from there.
I don't care.
I had it 17-11, and I
Me too.
thought that was generous, towards Canelo, because I split the first 4 rounds, but easily could have lost three out of those 4.
I will say this: there is a lesson here, and it dates back to boxing history. Is you keep moving up, and it seems easy, and it's like Sugar Ray. It's like, oh, here's Donnie Lalonde. That's great. He'll beat him. But at some point, you move up, and you're facing somebody who's in their
Yeah,
prime and is in that division, and that's not what you want to be.
Let me tell you something. Sugar Ray, he told me something about Donnie Lalonde once that always stuck with me. He's like, I won that fight. It looks good on paper. But in the first round, Donnie Lalonde hit me with the right hand, and I was like, oh, shit, this is going to be a long night. Like, he knew he was in with a real light heavyweight. From the first round on, Canelo Alvarez knew he was in with a real light heavyweight. Honestly, I hope he punts on the rematch. I know his pride's probably going to push him in that
Go
direction.
back 10 pounds.
Go back. And no, go to Golovkin. Like, do the third Golovkin fight anyway. Like, that was the plan all along, to make that fight between Canelo and Golovkin in September. Do that anyway. You're still undisputed at 168. Golovkin is still a marketable guy, having gone 4-0 since he lost to you back in 2018. Of course, everyone would pay for it. Leave Bivol and light heavyweight alone. You figured out where your ceiling is. It's 175 pounds. That's where you need to stop. You're a guy that began your career at 140 and have done remarkable things, climbing these weight ranks, daring to be great. But 175 is a bridge too far against a guy like that.
Chris Mannix, good to see you as always. You can listen to, if you love boxing, listen to his podcast. What's the podcast called?
Boxing with Chris Mannix, a very creative title.
There you go. All right. Good to see you, Chris.
See you in Boston.
All right, editor-at-large of The Ringer, Brian Curtis, is here. Felt like you were just on. You know something happened if you're getting pulled back in. Tom Brady, who's still playing football, just got signed to a deal to be the new Fox lead NFL analyst, which I guess is going to start TBD, and they're going to pay him 10 years, $375 million, which seems intentional. It's basically twice as much as Tony Romo and Troy Aikman. And we have no idea if he's going to be good at announcing football games. None. Zero. I followed the guy 20 years. No idea if he's going to be good. I'm leaning toward he might actually not be good. Ooh. But I'm not willing to rule out him being good. My point is, I have no idea. He's always kept it close to the best. He's pretty good on man in the arena. It's a little gregarious on that. I think it's a little different when you're in the booth and you have to criticize coaches, play calling, and quarterback play, which is a huge part of that job. Strategy. Do you think he'll have it? Do you think he'll do it? What's your gut check?
I think Peyton Manning unlocked something that Tom Brady can do when he gets in the Fox, whatever that is. TBD, as you say, no pun intended. TBD, which is be Professor Football. So really what you're talking about is X's and O's. You're happy, you're excited, you're dazzled by quarterback play, but you really never just kill anyone. The only time you really get mad is when football is sloppy, or the refs screw up, or the coach makes a bad decision, and then you kind of shake your head a little bit, like you saw Peyton do on the Manning cast.
Yeah.
I'm troubled by this.
Yeah.
And I think if Brady fits into that slot, he could be really good at that. Because there's no question he can talk about football, just play football. But yeah, so that's how I kind of see him doing this job.
Can you do your thing about what Fox really wants at the start of a football game?
What's that?
The first minute when we come in, we're looking live. What does Fox want to say?
At the beginning of a game?
Yeah.
When we get Kevin Burkhardt and Brady sitting there together?
Yeah, and they do I'm Kevin Burkhardt. I'm
Joined
here
by
with
the
7-time Super Bowl MVP Tom Brady. And Tom, that's really what they want. That intro is what matters the most to Fox. They don't want to be like, and I'm here with Trent Green.
Or I'm here with a really